The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. The shepherds went with haste to Bethlehem and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in the manger. When they saw this, they made known what had been told them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds had told them. But Mary treasured all these words and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen, as it had been told to them. After 8 days had passed, it was time to circumcise the child, and he was called Jesus, the name given by the angel before he was conceived in the womb. The Gospel of the Lord.
As we gather together to celebrate this first day of the new year, and we celebrate the Solemnity of Mary, Mother of God, it is fitting for us to look back at 2021, the joys, the challenges, the struggles, the blessings, give thanks to God, but then also to take an opportunity as we go into this new year. Some of you maybe are making New Year's resolutions, embracing new opportunities. So there's an end and there's a beginning, and thankfully we have many of those opportunities in our lives to have those ends and beginnings, to be able to start over, to start fresh, to start anew. And hopefully, as part of this opportunity of starting new in 2022, with the many challenges we face in the world with the pandemic, in trying to look in what the post-pandemic world's going to look like, for us maybe in our own lives, us as a family of parishes, as we continue to adapt, pivot, modify, and change so that we can share and live the good news. That we can continue to shine that light that we receive at Christmas, this light of salvation that then is transmitted and magnified through the things we say and the things that we do. Because everything we do helps build the kingdom of God. Everything, the way we live our lives, inspired by Mary as we honor her today, to say yes to the Lord. Also, kind of in this time of year on television, you'll see lots of top 10 lists, or best 50 plays in sports, and even the people that we have lost in 2021. And I don't know if you heard the news yesterday, but Betty White passed away. Does anyone remember Betty White? Of course, 99 years old. Her birthday is coming up very soon here in January. 100th birthday would have been. Of course, I remember Betty White most from the Golden Girls. Now, some of the people here might remember her from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I only remember that in reruns. But what a beautiful lady. And when I was listening to the radio yesterday, the comments that were being made about her was that sometimes when you try to meet the stars or the people that you look up to, oftentimes you'll be disappointed because the perception you have of them is not true in reality when you meet them. But they said for Betty White, the way she portrayed her various roles and the way she was in connecting with people, she was joyful, honest, and open. And when you meet her in person, you were never disappointed in that. And she wrote a book, If You Ask Me, and of course you won't, was the title of the book. She said this: everybody needs a passion. That's what keeps life interesting. If you live without passion, you can go through life without leaving any footprints. I think in her career and bringing us joy and laughter in the various ways that as an actress, as an artist, she offered to us, leaving us footprints. Well, I think that's a beautiful way for us as we enter now into 2022 and we re-embrace the gift of our faith and the gift of God's love to create these footprints in people's lives of grace, of hope, of mercy, of love, and especially forgiveness. That again, we allow God's grace to work through us, to shine light. And when we kind of help radiate that light of grace, we are also transformed. But what kind of legacy, what kind of footprints, what kind of signs are we giving to people when we turn away from God, when we're pessimistic, when we're looking at tearing people down instead of building them up, complaining but not helping to be part of the solution? We do have impacts on one another. And the more that we care for and support and are attentive to the way we seek to be signs of hope, I think the better we will be. The better parishes we will be. The better people we will be. And ultimately, the better world we will help create. So that so many and the whole world sees Christ, the Prince of Peace, in the things that we do. Now, this is not an easy thing. Another person we just recently lost, does anyone remember John Madden? A few of you do. He was an NFL football player, was a coach for the Oakland Raiders, won a Super Bowl. He was a young coach. He retired from that and then became a broadcaster and NFL analyst for many, many, many years. And probably some of the young people will recognize John Madden from the Electronic Arts or EA Sports football game called Madden football. Does anyone play that? Only one hand up in the church. That's me. Okay. I don't get to play it often, but I am the Pittsburgh Steelers when I play in that game. But anyway, and John Madden had a very big impact not only on football, but just his joy, his dedication, his commitment to the game and sharing that game with others. And he said this: when the going gets tough, I'm not always sure what you do. I'm not saying that I know how to fix everything when the going gets tough, but I do know this. When the going goes tough, you don't quit, and you don't fold up, and you don't go in the other direction. I think those are powerful words for us as we enter into 2022 with maybe the personal challenges, the challenges we have in our world and in our lives, that, we might not know how to fix everything. We might not know what to do. We might not know what different things, blessings or challenges that will come before us this year, but we know our option is not to walk away. Our option is not to quit. Our option is to try to figure out how we move forward with God's help and the help of one another. Our Blessed Mother Mary, as we honor her in the Solemnity of Mary, Mother of God, we heard when she saw the shepherds come with great joy and hear the story of the angels appearing to them, she pondered all of these things in her heart. And Pope Francis, in his homily today on the Solemnity feast day today, kind of talks about, we think ponder, isn't that nice? She thought, and she says, isn't this nice? Isn't this beautiful? The shepherds have come. Everything's going to go great, and everything's perfect. No. Pope Francis talked about how Mary, as she was hearing this story from the shepherds who were so overwhelmed with joy, he talked about the shepherds having this simple faith that kind of has come to them initially through these angels, and with great joy they come and worship Jesus. But he talked about Mary having this adult faith where she was pondering, saying, I've received the Son of God and I have to put him in a manger and I'm in a cave. Not giving him the due honor as the Son of God. And what she was pondering is trying to figure out what this conflict between the ideal and the reality. I think the Pope strikes a very, very important chord here. The ideal of how everything should go versus how everything is really going, and we, in a sense, have to accept that. We have a very hard time, and maybe I should correct that I have a very hard time sometimes reconciling the ideal of the way things should be in our lives, in our parishes, in our world, versus the way they are. And sometimes that frustration or that pondering or that questioning or that concern can make us kind of walk away. Say it's too much. I can't do it all. And yet, we don't quit. We don't know all the answers. But we move forward trusting in God's love. Trusting and supporting one another. Another great person we lost this year and so recently, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. A great defender of faith, a great defender of humanity, fighting apartheid in South Africa, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and an inspiration to all of us. He said this: do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. For Mary, I'm sure in a lot of these ways, for Mary and Joseph, things would seem overwhelming. Trying to figure out this is not the way it should be, but this is the way it is. And it gets worse in a sense because they end up fleeing to Egypt shortly in the story. And that pondering was trusting, being open and accepting, and I think that inspires us in our lives when we face our challenges in this new year, or when we need to face decisions that we need to make, New Year's resolutions, ways in which we're going to say, I'm going to strive to do the very best I can, to be a disciple, to be a messenger, to be able to say yes to God, and to give ourselves as a self-gift to God and to one another. Certainly that's one of the hopes I have in my own life, in my own ministry, in service to the people of Chatham, to continue to work faithfully to see where God wants us to go, not where I think we should be. As we continue in our Mass today and as we celebrate this beautiful solemnity, we recognize Mary as that inspiration for us even now to ponder, to reflect, to accept, and to move forward, not alone, but together as a family of faith, being that light of hope in the world. And I want to end with part of a poem by Amanda Gorman. She's a young woman, about 23 years old. She's a poet in the United States. You may have heard of her. She, in one of the most powerful artistic poems but presentations I have ever seen, was at the inauguration of President Biden, where she offered a poem of hope. Well, she wrote a poem for New Year's, and I saw her offer it on television last night. It's called New Day's Lyric. And we need artists, we need poets, because they help us take a look at those things that we think are ideal, and then take a look at the reality and kind of stir them together and stir our hearts to be better, to be stronger, to inspire us to be the very best people we can be. And so I'm going to leave you with just a segment of this very important poem that helps us move forward in this new year, move forward as disciples and messengers inspired by Mary, our mother. May this be the day we come together. Mourning, we come to mend. Withered, we come to weather. Torn, we come to tend. Battered, we come to better. Tethered by this year of yearning, we are learning that though we weren't ready for this, we have been readied by it. Steadily we vow that no matter how we are weighed down, we must always pave a way forward. This hope is our door, our portal. Even if we never get back to normal, someday we can venture beyond it, to leave the known and take the first steps. So let us not return to what was normal, but reach toward what is next.